Connor now knows so much about the menstrual cycle. He is so excited to explain to everyone. What phase am I in?
The luteal phase?
And what phase is before the luteal phase?
The follicular phase?
I'm so proud of him.
But there's a whole lot of like graphs and stuff with hormones and surges and HCG and
Which is exactly what he likes. So like this is his like little baby dream. Literally, it is a little baby dream.
I would classify it more as a little baby nightmare, but whatever you say.
I'm Marissa.
I'm Connor.
And together we're...
Marissa.
Oh, wow.
I
epically failed on that one. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing IVF, which you all know. It's been very, very stressful, which I think everyone sort of conceptually knows.
Or realizes, or like agrees to know.
But unless you've been through it, you have no idea. And that's not even taking into account all the hormone stuff. We've just had, it feels like an uphill battle with our IVF clinic, which to me, I don't think it should be that way. But this is kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of talk about how we started the luteal phase?
Yeah, so coming off egg retrieval, they don't do fresh transfers, which after all of our history of reading things, I think we understand why fresh transfers truly aren't done, which a fresh transfer just means that immediately after they retrieve your eggs, they create an embryo. Well, they create an embryo, let it germinate. I don't know whatever the proper term is.
Germinate.
And then they implant it directly back into the female without freezing it. So whenever like the 5th day of the embryo development, they would then insert it into the woman and, hope for the best at that point.
If they're doing 5th-day transfer, which now we know all about, there's 3-day
and 5-day blastocyst transfers. Yeah. So our clinic opted for frozen embryo transfer, which just means that they retrieve my eggs, they let me get back to my normal baseline, and then they basically start the new process after I've received my period after the egg retrieval.
Yeah. And this is after they've created embryos, let them germinate for 5 days, and anything that reached a 5-day blastocyst, they froze. Once Marissa's cycle was back to normal and her ovaries calmed back down, they gave us our plan, I guess. And there was really no discussion. It was just, here's what you're doing. And the here's what you're doing was what they call a fully medicated protocol, which is not what we wanted.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think Marissa and I definitely don't see fully eye to eye when it comes to medical things. I'm a little bit more, we'll call it trusting of doctors, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trusting. I just have a hesitancy to doctors.
Yeah.
Which I don't actually know where it stems from. So, like, if you're a psychologist, love to chat.
So, all that is said, from a bird's eye, 1,000-foot view, when it comes to FET, you really have 3 options. That's a fully natural cycle where you don't take any medicine and you're just timing it to your body's natural cycle to time the implantation. That takes a lot of flexibility on the clinic's side, and that they have to monitor your cycle with daily blood tests so they know exactly when your hormones are correct to implant.
I also think it takes flexibility on the like prospective parents too,
Yeah,
because like that is one of the cycles. It's like the most easily cancelable.
right,
Like if they miss something, like they're like, sorry, trying again next month, kind of thing, just
right.
because they're watching your natural cycle.
Yeah. Then there's the opposite end of that spectrum, which is what our clinic wanted to do, which is a fully medicated cycle, meaning
It's a
they,
HRT cycle
HRT, they fully pump you with meds to control every aspect,
of the follicular and luteal phase.
yeah, so that they know exactly when to implant the embryo. Now, that sounds all well and good, but if you look at research, again, not medical doctors, just
Two humans
do it.
trying to search for the best solution to create a family.
Yeah. Um, you'll find evidence not that there is a necessarily statistical difference in live birth rates between HRT and what they call modified HRT, but
Modified natural,
modified natural. Sorry,
which we haven't talked about yet.
I understand.
Okay.
But that because I'm not even gonna, you talk about this
Oh,
because I
okay.
mess it up every time.
So there's a obviously middle ground between fully medicated and natural, and it's called modified natural. And in a modified natural and even natural, you create a what's called a corpus luteum. I like to think of it. Your favorite doctor always reference things in like food lingo.
Yeah,
Like, so he talks about intestines being like a bowl of spaghettis, like spaghetti noodles, like you can never put them back in the same place if you have to have surgery. So like I think of it kind of like trying to be, so I think of it as like an eggshell and a yolk and like egg whites. So like when you're TMI for some people, when you're ovulating, you're creating an egg. That egg is then released and it leaves what's called a corpus luteum, or what I think of as an eggshell.
yeah.
That eggshell produces the estrogen and progesterone that you'll need if implantation occurs before the placenta is developed.
Which in a fully medicated cycle doesn't exist.
Because you're not creating an egg and you're not creating, therefore, that eggshell.
So there is no corpus luteum. There is no production of progesterone or estrogen, which is why they're medicating you. Because they're giving your body, you know, medically what it needs to support pregnancy. We didn't want that.
We wanted the corpus luteum present because research did show, countless research articles basically being like like clinically, I don't think there's a whole
There was no difference in
statistical
birth
difference
rate.
in birth rate between the two. The issue that really came down to it in a lot of the medical reports that we read was the corpus luteum being present actually decreases the rate of like preeclampsia and other like mom and baby related like
Pregnancy
gestational
issues. Yeah.
so that was like, we were like, okay, well, if there's no real difference between the two and the difference is basically like my health and safety,
Yeah.
like I think it's a no-brainer for us.
So we pushed. I don't think it wanted. Actually, I'll take it back. They were receptive. However, I don't think they fully grasped that we wanted what really a modified natural cycle. I think they heard that and they put you on a letrozole cycle, which is basically what they give for what?
Endometriosis patients
Yeah.
or parents that are either diagnosed formally or undiagnosed but have endometrial symptoms.
Which, if you look into it, is basically.
A modified natural protocol,
But-
so to speak. Yeah.
So we went with that. But even that, they just overdid it on the meds. You want to talk about that?
I don't even know where to start.
This was your hill, not so much mine.
I don't even know where to start. So, our specific clinic, I equate it to like a lifetime professor at a university who's like taught a lecture class for like 30 years and has never bothered to change their exam. They just like make a copy of their same exam for the last 30 years. I kind of felt this way when getting our letrozole modified. It was like a paper that she provided with us where originally they had me taking letrozole on days 2 through 5 of my cycle, and then waiting until where they thought the LH surge would occur, and creating a trigger shot. And then after that, I was going to have to take estrogen. I was going to have to take IM progesterone. They had me on an anti-inflammatory and a antibiotic. And that was all per their protocol. So I would have to take that basically from days in the luteal phase, P+2, which is trigger day plus two days, starting from then, basically until a positive pregnancy test.
And then the IM progesterone and
the IM progesterone and the estrogen I had to take until basically like 10 weeks of pregnancy. But the steroid and the antibiotic, they had like only like a 5-day course. So we saw that, and I was like, I don't think this is modified. So I did ask for their truly hormone replacement therapy protocol. Honestly, I can't even say if there was a difference.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, wait a second. If I'm doing modified, why does it look exactly like the other one? So I did my research and convinced Connor that he should join me in this uphill battle.
Well, I mean, we found a middle ground.
We did. So
Marisa didn't want to take any progesterone, period.
I didn't want to take...
You want to take meds, period.
I tried, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So I was like, well, you have me on basically a fully medicated. So like, no, like we're going to find a middle ground here. So I decided to basically push back on my doctor and ask them to adjust my protocol to not include IM progesterone. But after our research, Connor found some articles that basically said IM progesterone is best represented in the serum blood level.
So, yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about that.
So, okay, the main thing that the doctors are looking for an implantation success is progesterone serum. Serum progesterone basically just means progesterone in the blood. They want the progesterone level in your blood to be at least 15, ideally 20. Anything over 20 is great. The issue is that without a
corpus luteum,
what she said, without that, your body's not making it. So the only way to get it is to take it externally. There are 2 ways to take it, 3 ways?
3 ways, technically.
A pill, a vaginal suppository, or an IM shot. An IM shot, if you're not familiar, is an intramuscular shot. It's a big-ass needle that you either shove up into your butt or your thigh. It's extremely painful. Unfortunately, the only one of those 3 that allows doctors to actually measure the progesterone in your blood is the IM method. So, if you're doing a fully medicated system, you basically have to take IM progesterone because your body's not creating it, and for the doctors to know if you're good for implantation, they've got to be able to measure it, and the only way that you measure it is with the needle. For Marisa, because she did have a
corpus luteum.
Thank you. They could measure it. So our philosophy was, why is she taking the needle method if you're still able to measure it and see where the levels are? So we eventually decided that because of research that we found, you would take vaginal suppositories daily, with an IM progesterone shot every 3rd day.
That seemed to be, even from our perspective of looking at HRT, was like the best outcome for patient success in terms of like pain, those kind of temporary side effects, so to speak, of intramuscular progesterone, and the benefit of serum blood levels. So like in an HRT cycle, that's typically the best middle ground if you're looking to reduce your IM progesterone.
And to be clear, we're not just talking about like, oh, it's a painful needle. Like, what are side effects of iron progesterone? You got people hitting their sciatic nerve with the needle that they never recover from. You got people that have the gel stay in like a gelatinous
Like,
bubble
yeah.
at the injection site. You got
Some people like have hives or like a reaction
yeah.
to the oil that it's put in because the progesterone is mixed in an oil.
So like it's not just some, it's not like those just like, oh, I want needles. Like the fact that doctors are out there just willy nilly prescribing iron progesterone is crazy to me when there's clear research out there that shows that it's not necessarily required.
Yeah, every day is not necessarily a required like injection.
So that's what we agreed to. Well, we agreed to iron progesterone every third day, the estrogen, and we didn't tell a doctor, but we decided personally that we're not taking the
Anti-inflammatory or antibiotic.
because what do those have to do with pregnancy? And none of the research that we did said anything. It was basically like doctors prescribe it
If needed.
because they like to.
But like this one was like out of the box required.
Yeah.
So we were like, Well, our doctor didn't originally get our memo of using intramuscular progesterone infrequently. Yeah. So she, on my sheet for directions, literally just hand crossed off, or had her assistant or nurse or whoever hand cross off progesterone and oil and just write in crinonine, I think is how you say it, yeah. Vaginal progesterone. So every time you see the word progesterone and oil, it just says vaginal progesterone written over it.
Can you do my job so she didn't drive me into the camera?
Gotcha. So we then got our paper and we were like, wait a second, we're agreeing to intramuscular progesterone every 3 days. So we call our doctor, let them know, they get in touch.
Yeah, sure, whatever you want to do.
Whatever days you want to do it on. Yeah. So we picked our days like as if we were doctors. And they were like, sounds good to us. Yep. She rewrote it down over the sheet again, over some other things that she crossed off.
And to me, the crazy thing was the entire thing with modified natural is when you start your medicine from P2 to implantation, they're supposed to be monitoring your levels. They did not. They're like, we'll test your blood the day of implantation, that's it.
I don't even think it was a day of implantation. I think it was right before trigger, and then they were out till basically...
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So we had to ask because we realized that modified natural is very dependent upon natural hormones, and we want to make this as successful as we possibly can for what we have control of. So we asked to schedule blood labs twice between when they had me scheduled for a trigger and when they have me scheduled for embryo transfer, just to confirm, based on our research, what we found, just so we can see what my numbers are, because that's the only way to tell what my serum blood levels.
Yeah. So we started medicine on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. Our first blood draw was Tuesday. So Tuesday, your progesterone was 15.
Yeah.
She had not taken any IM yet. That was just the vaginal. And your estrogen was 28.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. 26, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. So at that point, we had two pieces of information. One, she's already at an acceptable level of progesterone. She's at the low end of what they like, but they like between 15 and 20.
At time of transfer.
At time of transfer, which is now 4 days away.
Yeah.
Transfer was going to be on Friday. That was Tuesday. So to us, I think we decided that the IM wasn't necessary because you were already there. So why subject you to that?
Yeah.
Possible side effects. We're going to keep taking the vaginal. We did realize that the estrogen was probably low. There isn't a lot of information out there on what level of estrogen
needs to be in the
needs to be.
female body. Like honestly, like nothing really. Like
There's a lot for estrogen level as a predictor for success in HRT at time of trigger. But it seems like there isn't a lot of research.
between that, like we're like, is estrogen important?
Yeah.
Like is a certain number at a certain time? Like they're very particular about making sure your progesterone is accurate, but the estrogen is one that they're just kind of like, well, it's a number. Like
Yeah.
all right.
And to be clear, they won't even like test that if it went wrong. So
Correct.
the research that we did suggested the ideal range of estrogen at implantation is between 2 and 400. We let 28, so pretty low compared to that. So we kept taking
Estrogen
estrogen,
and progesterone as requested.
but no,
But we did ask our doctor to schedule another blood test just so we can feel confident, a day before our transfer, just to check out my levels and just make sure that like we're setting me up for the best success if we are thawing an embryo to do this,
Right.
So they took my levels again on Thursday, and those came back with progesterone at 26
Yep,
and estrogen at 95,
98.
98, something like that. So definitely estrogen, it
Improved.
increased, but it's still not to the numbers that Connor found, and the research studies showed, 200 to 400. But so we did ask our nurse practitioner. Like they clearly weren't concerned with my numbers being 95, and they really weren't even concerned at 26.
They even use the word look good. Your numbers look good.
So, we asked her, like, what are you looking for in that number? Like, what should it be? And she was basically like, somewhere around 100.
What she said was that at this point, they never checked for that. But
That's
when
right.
she looked at Penn, that they liked it to be at least 100.
100. So we were like, okay, well, that makes us feel slightly better in that it's
And we saw a
98.
day at that point where
Yeah.
you were going to take your meds 2 more times. Before, one more time.
One more time, yeah.
Before, so we knew they would be over 100 by implantation. So that made us feel better somewhat.
Yeah.
So we did it. We went in the next day. We had our, what do they keep calling it? Happy transfer day.
Yeah, they kept saying happy transfer day as we were walking down the hall. It was like as if you had like a birthday balloon. So like everyone tells you happy birthday, or
Yeah.
like you have like a bride to be sash on. So they're like, oh, congratulations. Like they were like every person we met down the hallway after the procedure was like happy transfer day, and we're like, thanks.
And I actually had to be there this time.
Yeah, which lots of emotions, honestly, because so we were informed prior that Connor couldn't be there during the egg retrieval, but Connor could be there during the embryo transfer. So I was like, well, one's not invasive, the other's invasive. Maybe that's why. Who really knows, right? So they take us back on embryo transfer day to this little room. It's like a clinic area.
It's a surgical room.
And so she's like, okay, give me 1 second. Let me open this door. And Connor goes, is this where you were at? And I was like, yeah, this is where I was at.
Yeah,
So
same
then
room.
we go into this surgical room, and he's like, is this where you had it done at? I was like, yeah, this is where I had it done at. So like there were mixed feelings in that like I was already very nervous for the egg retrieval, and like they were basically like, you can't have your spouse back here. But yet in the same grain, almost a month and a half later, they're like, yeah, bring your spouse back here. Not a problem.
Yeah, it was strange.
Also, like we were left in the room for way too long.
Yeah. Do you want to show them a picture?
Do I want to show them the picture?
Yeah.
We could put a picture up, yeah.
That's way more what you would show the paper in.
You want me to leave here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
It's right there. That means I have to carry the conversation. Should I just sing the Jeopardy song? Do 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 do. Okay, she's back. Wait, stop singing.
So this is what Connor likes to call.
The internet's gonna be mad at me. I have a name for our baby right now.
Well, he's not our baby yet.
You see? She, it, whatever it identifies as,
What do you call it?
the hatchling.
So this is, I don't know if you can see.
This is our hatchling. See, he started to hatch already.
He's number 5, Embryo.
Yep. Which that in itself was interesting. They had this super regimented procedure about like identifying the embryo. They're like, please confirm.
They had me confirm on the little baby, like, I can't, like, honestly.
They had 2-bet.
He was a 2-bet. He was like this long, but he was like toothpick size. And there was like a little tiny barcode on him with some numbers and stuff. And like, I literally had to hold it like this far from my, and they're like, can you confirm that your name is on there? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, can you read the date of birth listed on there? So I read it to them. They're like, okay, thank you. Can you confirm what embryo number it states on there? So like, I have to read off of this little tiny pipette.
Keep in mind that they're super concerned about that, which I get, sure. But they also are very insistent that we sign our like FET consent form, which was a DocuSign, and they want us to upload it. We were supposed to do it at home. They want us to upload pictures of our state ID to be able to DocuSign this form. So me and Marisa were both immediately like, we're not doing that.
Like, we're very capable of just signing at the facility.
Yeah.
Like, why are we uploading our ID? So I called our facility and was like, hey, FYI, I'm not signing this. I'll sign it at I'll sign it at the facility. And they're like, all right, we'll have it all ready for you. So we show up. She hands me the like document. So on the online portal, it asks, I always have to sign first, and then Connor has to sign. So because I denied signing it, Connor's not able to sign it. So we show up for transfer day. This nurse, bless her heart, she was a nice woman.
She was.
Just doing her job. But I feel like we just bust everybody's.
Yeah.
So she comes over, she hands me an iPad tablet. It's got the consent form on it. Basically what I would see after I have uploaded my ID. And she's like, do you mind just confirming all the details on it? You agree to this, initial, and then like do your electronic signature. I was like, okay. So like I look at it, and on the sheet it says Dr._blank. I agree to allow Dr._blank to administer this procedure. And so like I look over to her, I was like, are you planning on putting the doctor's name? And her response, albeit was a legitimate response.
Well, she was like, I don't know.
She's like, so let me go ask. So she leaves the room that we were in, asks whoever, comes back in, and she goes, yeah, they put it in once the doctor signs.
Which the doctor isn't doing it until you sign.
So I have to sign it, then the nurse has to sign it, and then the doctor signs it.
And then they put the doctor's name.
And then apparently they put the doctor's name in.
So they wanted Marisa to sign this blank document. I had no words.
So I was like, look. So I told her blatantly, I was like, I will sign the document, even though there's not a doctor's name listed, but I would like to see the document after the doctor signs to confirm that before the procedure. I said, or I'm revoking my consent basically to the procedure if you're not, like if the doctor's name isn't provided on there. And she's like, I felt so bad for her. Like she was shaking in her little space boots. Like she's probably never had anybody be that much of a jerk to her.
Which, how do I say this politely? It's an IVF clinic where women are on lots of hormones. You would think that they're pretty used to
crazy requests.
To difficult people.
So she was like, okay, well, you can't do this procedure until you sign the consent. I said, I'm not saying I'm not going to sign it. I just want to see the completed version. Yeah. So she's like, okay, well, the procedure, I finished signing it. She's like, okay, well, the doctor should be in shortly to talk to you about the procedure. I was like, okay, cool. So she leaves. She comes back in and provides me a printed copy of the consent form, which I appreciate, along with where you can clearly see like the doctor's name is printed on there. So Connor was like, hey, just make sure that the doctor comes in is actually the doctor that's listed on there. Yeah. So the doctor that did my procedure actually isn't the one who I've been, in theory, going to see at our local clinic.
Well, because they already know that she's retired.
Yeah.
But we'll never see her again.
Yeah, basically.
Yep.
But the fun part is, after that, they gave me at-home care instructions, basically post-transfer. Yep. And the nurse goes, your doctor specifically wants you to follow these. I'm like, bro, my doctor has had an out of office for like 3 weeks now. You
Yeah.
really think she's the one who
And
made
she's
this?
been diarrhea in like 5 days.
So we were like, okay, thank you. It was basically like, don't do anything strenuous. Relax.
No
You can,
sex
yeah, no sex.
for 10 days.
What, just make sure to drink liquids, like just like regular things. So
So we did it.
yeah, all of that long-winded story. Thanks for sticking along.
There's a hatchling inside my wife right now.
Yeah, in
For-
theory.
It's been 1 day.
Yeah.
Weekend pregnancy test. What did they say? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So we gotta wait 2 weeks. It's gonna be a very nerve-wracking 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We might post this after that so that we can know whether or not to actually post it or not.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we also like enjoying and sharing our experiences
Sure.
and the journey. So this is kind of more like there's a lot of things in IVF that we've learned that like even just like modified natural HRT, like that's something we completely learned in
Yeah.
this process. So like we just love sharing the knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, my biggest takeaway from this, and if you're still listening, which we know there are a few of you out there that stay to the end, thank you. My biggest takeaway to give you is you don't understand or realize how many choices you've made for your fertility journey simply by picking a clinic. The clinic itself is probably the biggest decision that you can make, because depending on the clinic that you pick, you've already wiped out 50 to 95% of the choices that you could make. So please, if you're considering IVF, fertility journey, anything of that sort, do your homework on your clinic, ask them questions. Don't just pick one because they're close to you, or Purple Room Jewel, number one, whatever. Just really, I think that's my biggest
Yeah.
piece of advice.
For sure. And also, I mean, I think we internally had this dialogue of like, do we leave or do we stay? Like with these choices already made, being so far in the process. And I feel
Well, not till they get you.
and I feel for the people who like didn't know that they made that choice and then are forced to stay when that's something really,
Because that was us.
yeah.
I mean, that was us.
When like I feel like it should be a lot clearer in the IVF industry about what their philosophies are on, like, I feel like it should be a fact sheet. Like, here's what we do. Like,
Here are your options. Here are the options that exist. Here are the options
that we at this clinic believe in.
Right. Of those that exist, here's the ones that we offer you. But like that isn't.
Unless you ask, it's not really widely known. It's like a don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
We've already suckered you in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, thanks for sticking along on the journey with us.
Yep.
And, oh no.
Jeez. You gotta
Just tore our
destroy-
hatchling photo.
She's already jealous. But yeah, hopefully our hatchling goes up big and strong, and we will have a update video for you soon, I hope.
Yeah.
If not, please be gentle and don't prod with questions. We will keep you updated, good or bad, but it's definitely.
We're trying to keep it real time, and keeping it real time has its benefits and has its
potential negatives.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just appreciate the community that's grown, and we hope that you're respectful with questions.
Yeah. So thanks everyone. We hope to talk to you soon. You want to say it?
Catch you on the flippy flop.
Catch you on Flippy Flop.